The ocean had been silent for days. No squawks of gulls, no rhythmic splash of waves against the hull. Only the low creak of the vessel underfoot and a metallic rattle of gear in the windless air. Captain Lyra Voss stood at the edge of the research vessel Ardent, eyes fixed on the horizon, where steel gray bled into storm-stained blue. A dull sheen of sweat clung to her brow, despite the cool temperature, as if her body sensed what logic refused to grasp. Something wasn't right. 30 seconds to drone recovery, said Elias Rourke, the ship's sonar technician, his voice calm, professional. But even he glanced toward the sea a beat too long. The drone's return was overdue. That wouldn't normally warrant concern. Equipment delays happened, but this was their third drone lost in less than a week. Each time, a final ping echoed from the deep, followed by radio silence. And then nothing. Visual contact, murmured Quinn Mars, the youngest of the crew, perched high above in the crow's nest with binoculars in trembling hands. You're not going to believe this. Lyra raised the comm. Say again, Quinn. There's a ship dead ahead. It's not on radar. The tension tightened, almost snapping the air itself. Lyra turned her gaze forward. Through the haze, a shadow formed. A ship, yes, but unlike any still sailing. No engine, no lights. Tall, elegant masts sliced the sky. Canvas sails, not tattered but pristine, billowed gently despite the stillness in the air. As they neared, the wind, gone for days, stirred faintly, pushing the Ardent toward the relic. No one spoke as they came alongside. It looked like something lifted straight from the 17th century. Dark wooden hull, intricately carved railings, heavy ropes, and iron anchors that shimmered with brine but not rust. The name etched into the stern was unrecognizable. A looping script in no known language. Any other vessels in the vicinity? Lyra asked. Elias shook his head. Negative. Satellite links glitching again. It's like it doesn't want to be seen, Quinn muttered. Lyra felt that too. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something older, deeper, like standing at the mouth of a cave and knowing something waited inside. By noon, they were ready to board. Lyra, Elias, and Dr. Giannamani, their cultural historian, crossed first. The old vessel groaned beneath their boots, but held. Birds did not circle. No signs of life. No decay either. The ropes were dry and tight, the sails catching a wind that didn't exist. Dr. Imani touched the railing gently. It's not oak or teak. Something older. And these carvings, they're not decorative. They're phonetic. This whole thing could be a sound chamber. Elias raised a brow. You're saying the ship's designed to listen? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she approached the helm and spoke, barely above a whisper. Who made you? A sound, no louder than an exhale, passed through the rigging. The wheels shivered. A single rope snapped free from a cleat and coiled like a serpent withdrawing. They all froze. It responded, Elias said slowly, but there's no electronics, no AI, no triggers that I can detect. Lyra exhaled, her hand moving to the hilt of her utility knife. We keep going. They descended below deck. The air grew stiller, denser, as though they'd stepped not into a space, but into a memory. Dust should have blanketed every surface, but there was none. The floors gleamed with age-darkened polish, the walls lined with maps whose ink hadn't faded. More, the strange script curved over bulkheads and archways. Jean read aloud from a wall panel. Speak with care. The vessel listens. Then she tried something else, a different phrase, softer, like a question in an old tongue. One of the doors ahead clicked and creaked ajar. No touch, no key, just voice. Elias stared. That shouldn't be possible. Lyra touched the edge of the door. The hinges were cold and smooth. But it is. They returned topside just before sunset, the others waiting with bated breath. Ship's responsive, Lyra said. To voice. Voice commands. Quinn asked. Not commands, Jin replied. Requests. It reacts like it's choosing when to obey. It's not mechanical. It's something else. That night, the crew set anchor, drifting near the ghostly vessel. No one slept. The silence held too much weight. At 2:04 a.m., the wind picked up suddenly, and the old ship shifted of its own accord, not drifting, steering, toward them. Alarms rang on the Ardent, but Lyra was already moving. She stepped out onto the deck just in time to see the ancient ship halt, mere meters away, then turned slightly as though offering its side. A plank extended. That wasn't there before, Elias whispered. It wants us back, Jin said, or it wants something else. They boarded again at dawn. This time, the main cabin was open. Inside was a table set with what looked like navigation instruments, though none familiar. A device rested at the center, flat, circular, and humming. A crystalline dome sat atop it, inside which a shape pulsed in rhythm with their breathing. Lyra reached out. As her fingers neared, a whisper, not in her ears, but inside her chest, formed a question she hadn't expected. Who speaks with purpose? She stepped back. It spoke, she said. No one else heard anything, Elias replied, voice tight. But Jun was staring at the dome too. No, I did. It's not sound. It's resonance. Directed thought. Voice and will combined. The implications crashed over them like a storm surge. This was not a ship built by hands alone. It was an artifact, yes, but also an entity. A construct that didn't simply obey. It judged. And it was waiting. Lyra looked again at the words etched into the walls, into the wheels, into the grain of the ship's being. Speak with care. She turned to the crew. We need to decide. We keep studying this, or we leave it here and tell the world. But the ship answered first. A groan echoed from below. The sails caught wind that hadn't existed moments before, and the ship began to move, slowly, gracefully, toward the open sea. No engine, no crew, just a wind and a whispered will, and they were still on board. The sea stretched endlessly, a glass pane beneath a sky streaked with amber and fading blue. The ancient ship moved of its own accord now. No sails unfurled, no rudder turned by human hand. And yet it advanced, gliding steadily west, against a current, indifferent to physics, unburdened by logic. Captain Lyra Voss stood near the prow, jaw clenched, eyes narrowed. She wasn't a woman prone to superstition, but everything about this vessel defied reason. For the past 6 hours, they'd watched the ship maneuver as if following a route only it could see. The Ardent had long since disappeared from view. They were alone with something that had no business being alive. Below deck, Dr. Jinamani ran her fingers along another panel of carved symbols, voice low as she sounded out the phonemes. The wall vibrated subtly in response, but revealed nothing new. She took a breath, adjusted her recorder, and tried again. Only this time, she modulated her voice, injecting a soft reverence. The result was immediate. The plank beneath her feet shifted, almost imperceptibly, and a compartment slid open beside her. Inside sat a series of discs, stone, etched, warm to the touch. They pulsed faintly at her presence. Captain, Jin called up to the speaking tube. You'll want to see this. By the time Lyra arrived, Elias and Quinn were already gathered, the dim glow from the discs casting strange shadows across their faces. They respond to tone, Jin said, not just words. You can't force it. I try to command, nothing. Then I asked. Asked what? Lyra said, permission. Quinn gave a nervous laugh. You're saying this ship wants manners? I'm saying it chooses when to cooperate. It responds to sincerity, to intent. Elias ran some frequency tests. Anything recorded fails. Even synthetic voices don't register. It only responds to us. Our voices. It's intelligent? Lyra asked. Or reactive? Elias muttered. Maybe both. Or worse, Quinn added, eyes wide. What if it's alive? No one answered. Later, as night fell again, Jin sat alone in the captain's chamber, the one they'd found unlocked that morning. She reviewed her recordings, isolating frequencies, pitch variations, emotional inflection. The data didn't follow any technological logic. Still, she felt drawn to the ship as if it were listening, not just to words, but to thoughts that formed before speech. In the corner of the room, the crystal dome pulsed faintly. She approached it again, hesitantly. "Why us?" she whispered. No sound replied, but the ship creaked, and the lamp above her flickered once. Off! Then on again. She inhaled sharply. "Captain Voss," she said over the comm, "I think it understands us more than we realize. Not just the meaning of our words, but the truth inside them." The next morning, the ship changed course. No one had touched the helm. It turned sharply, smoothly, as if reacting to some silent decision. Elias confirmed what they feared. The stars were no longer where they should be. Compass readings twisted. GPS failed entirely. It was as if they crossed into some liminal space. Uncharted, untethered. "We're not on Earth coordinates anymore," Elias reported. Lyra looked skyward, jaw tightening. "Then where the hell are we?" The question lingered, unanswered. By midday, the ship slowed. A shape emerged on the horizon. An island, perhaps, or something larger. It shimmered, indistinct, as if refusing to be clearly seen. Lyra ordered binoculars. What she saw made her stomach turn. Structures, massive, spiraling towers made from the same wood and stone as the ship, jutted from the land. The coastline was unnatural, curved in impossible geometries. There were no birds, no waves, just stillness and the faint sound of something breathing. She lowered the binoculars. "We're not alone." As the ship neared the shore, the dome in the captain's chamber began to emit a tone, low and harmonic. The ship shuddered to a halt, anchoring itself without rope or chain. And then the plank lowered again, unbidden. Lyra, Jeanne, and Elias disembarked. Quinn stayed aboard, eyes fixed on the horizon, muttering prayers to gods he never believed in before this voyage. The air on shore felt dense, heavy with some invisible charge. The sand beneath their feet was fine as dust, pale gray, untouched. The structures loomed ahead, not ruined, but asleep, dormant, as if awaiting return. They entered the first tower, cautiously. The interior was hollow, walls inscribed with yet more script, more symbols. A platform stood in the center, and above it, a concave ceiling that resonated like a tuning fork when Jin spoke. "It's an amplifier," she whispered. Lyra nodded once. "Try it." Jin stepped onto the platform, hesitated, then spoke clearly. "Who are you?" The resonance grew, building not in volume, but in density. They felt inside their bones. A voice formed, not from any one direction, but from everywhere. "You are not the first." Elias flinched. "That's not an echo. It's a reply." Jin steadied herself. "Who were the first?" "Those who listened." The tone dropped. Silence returned. They left the structure breathless. The implications were immense. This place, the ship, all of it, built not just by a forgotten civilization, but by one that spoke through resonance, thought, and tone. Back on board, Quinn met them with pale cheeks and wild eyes. "While you were gone," he said, voice trembling, the ship talked. Not aloud. Inside. I heard my name. It said choose. Just that. Over and over. "What did you do?" Lyra asked. He looked at her like he was still deciding. "I stayed." That night, none of them slept. In her quarters, Lyra stood beside the pulsing dome, hand hovering just above it. "What do you want from us?" she asked, barely more than a breath. This time, the whisper was audible to all. "Truth." Jin turned slowly. "It's not just listening. It's judging. It's deciding who's worthy to know what came before." Lyra sat, the ship creaking softly around them. "Well," she said, voice steady, "then we better be honest." A storm had formed, not above, but within. The ancient ship had not moved since reaching the island, yet tension vibrated through its timbers like a wound string. Captain Lyra Voss stood amidships, arms crossed, her voice low as she conferred with John and Elias. The word truth hung heavily in the air, echoing in each of their minds like a challenge. The vessel had spoken again in the night, not with sound but sensation. Each crew member had woken with different memories, some vivid, others blurred, but all unmistakably implanted. Jin had dreamed of a city not built by hands, floating above glassy oceans, lit by twin moons. Elias had seen rows of figures in robes made of light, humming in harmony, shaping reality with voice alone. Lyra had seen fire and silence, and the violent collapse of a tower too vast to measure. "It's not showing us history," Jin said, her hands trembling slightly as she wrapped them around a steaming mug. "It's showing us failure. Ruin, like it's warning us." Elias paced across the deck. "Or testing our reactions, seeing who understands, who deserves the truth." Lyra remained still, or who survives it. Below deck, the crystalline dome no longer pulsed in rhythm. Instead, it emitted a low, steady frequency, imperceptible to the ear but felt in the chest, in the bones. It seemed to fluctuate when spoken to, especially when questions of identity, purpose, or intent were posed. Quinn hadn't spoken since the previous day. He sat alone in the crew quarters, hands clasped, murmuring phrases under his breath. Sometimes prayers, sometimes apologies. When John sat beside him, he barely blinked. "I heard my sister's voice," he whispered eventually. "She's been dead 5 years. I heard her, John, clear as day. She said you lied." Jin swallowed hard. "Did you?" Quinn didn't answer. That morning, the crew ventured once more to the shore. The tower had changed. New lines glowed faintly in the walls, patterns that seemed to move when not watched directly. They found another chamber, deeper and colder, its walls ringed with what appeared to be listening stations. At the center, a stone pedestal bore a carving, a mouth open in speech, beneath a sun with a cracked core. Jin stepped forward, voice steady but reverent. "We seek to understand," she said. "We want to learn." The chamber pulsed once. "Then speak what is not spoken." The words echoed not just around them, but through them. Lyra felt her throat tighten, as if the air itself demanded honesty. Elias glanced at her. "What does that mean? Confession?" "Not to us," she murmured. To this place, this ship, whatever's listening." Back on the vessel, they took turns in the captain's chamber. Each was left alone with the dome. Each return changed, some silent, some shaken, some weeping. Elias emerged with bloodshot eyes and a clenched jaw, refusing to speak. Quinn came out calm, even smiling, unnervingly placid. Only Lyra remained. She entered at dusk. The dome waited, unmoving, as if holding its breath. She stood before it, uncertain. "I don't know what you want," she said quietly. "I'm not a prophet or a scholar. I'm just trying to keep my crew alive." The dome pulsed once. "And yet you brought them here." Her breath caught. The voice wasn't hers. It wasn't spoken. It was woven into her thoughts. "I followed the signal. I followed the mystery. You followed guilt." The accusation struck like a blow. Lyra staggered back, fury rising. "I followed orders. My last mission, I made the call I had to. That station was lost. You silenced them." She clenched her fists. They were dying. Radiation. Failing systems. There was no rescue window left. Still, you chose silence. Her voice broke. Yes, I did. I ended the transmissions. I didn't want their last minutes broadcast. I didn't want the world to hear them scream." The chamber fell still. The frequency ceased. The dome dimmed. Then, slowly, light returned, not a pulse now, but a constant, steady glow. Outside, the wind picked up. The sails unfurled. The ship groaned with purpose. Jean and Elias ran to meet her as she stepped back on deck, pale and trembling. "What happened?" Jin asked. "It listened," Lyra whispered, "and I think accepted it." The ship began to move again, slowly turning from the island, pointing into deeper waters. Behind them, the strange land faded, its towers dissolving into mist, as if they had never existed at all. Elias watched the sails catch wind. "Where is it taking us now?" Lyra looked ahead, the sea stretching dark and unknowable before them. "Wherever the truth lives," she said. The sky fractured just before dawn. Clouds rippled in concentric rings overhead, as if the atmosphere itself were reacting to the ship's silent command. The sea, once a companion in their journey, now moved in slow spirals beneath the hull, reflecting distorted stars that didn't match any chart. Time bent subtly on the Alethea. Meals missed their regular hours. Fatigue settled at odd intervals, and even the heartbeat of the vessel pulsed to its own inscrutable rhythm. Captain Lyra Voss stood at the helm, though her hands remained off the wheel. The ship didn't require her control anymore. It responded only to honesty and to intent. Both had become rare currencies. Jin and Mani worked feverishly below deck, mapping the frequencies emitted by the crystalline dome. Each confession they made to the ship had shifted its internal language, like it was rewriting its own lexicon of human truth. Elias had joined her now, drawn in by the allure of understanding something no machine, no mind, no archive could truly categorize. Together, they translated waveforms into tonal equivalents, but something deeper eluded them. Something behind the language, beneath the ship's responses. Above deck, Quinn had taken a standing at the prow. He no longer feared the voice, nor the visions it summoned. The ship had shown him the full weight of his regrets, had carved open a wound of his sister's death, not to punish, but to prepare. The price of understanding was pain, and he had paid. It was mid-morning when the horizon split open. No one saw it at first. It wasn't a place in the world, but a place between places. The water folded inward. The ship didn't resist. It drifted toward the breach with certainty, as if drawn home. The breach shimmered, more a feeling than a shape. Beyond it, light fractured and coalesced in impossible geometries. "This is it," Jin whispered, joining the others topside. "The origin, or the echo of it." Elias adjusted the scanner in his hand. "It's not just an entrance. It's a judgment gate. The ship's scanning us. Or whoever we used to be." They exchanged glances, understanding. This was the final test. Not of skill, not of loyalty, of identity. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was low but steady. "We came here seeking knowledge. Truth, but we've only found questions. If that's the price of understanding, we'll pay it." The dome below deck flared. The breach expanded. The Alethea passed through. Everything changed. There was no sea now, no sky, only a vast chamber of light and sound wrapped around them like a cocoon. The ship floated without water, suspended in a medium that felt neither air nor vacuum. Structures surrounded them. Towers of refracted glass, harmonic spires that seemed to sing without voice. Figures emerged, not corporeal, not illusion. They were shapes of resonance, projections of memory. Each crew member saw them differently. For Jeanne, they took the form of ancient scholars, tall, robed, eyes glowing with unfathomable knowing. Elias saw them as pulses of waveform, pure mathematics given sentience. Quinn, weeping silently, saw his sister among them, smiling, not accusing, but absolving. Lyra saw herself, not mirrored, not duplicated, but examined, the version of her that had made every hard choice, the commander, the survivor, the reluctant executioner of mercy. A voice surrounded them, this time unmistakable, unified, and whole. "You have crossed the veil of record. All who arrive must speak the unspoken. Truth is not data. It is sacrifice." Jin stepped forward. "What was this place? Who built you?" The voice did not answer directly. "We were once many. Then we were sound. Then we became silence." Elias frowned. "Your remnants? Of what?" "Of those who believed the voice was creation, that reality could be sung. But power untempered deafens. We fractured. We fled. And so we waited." Lyra understood then. "You created this ship to find us. Not humanity, specifically, but those who could resonate with you, who could speak with more than words." The light dimmed, affirming. Jin approached the dome again. "Why us?" "Because you broke." They each felt the weight of that answer. Only those who fracture can hear the truth. Only those who suffer can translate it. This ship is not a vessel. It is an instrument. You are not its passengers. You are its voice. The realization landed like gravity. They hadn't been brought here for knowledge. They had been chosen to carry it forward, to become the next verse in a song that had been silent for too long. The spires around them began to shift, glowing brighter, changing pitch. The breach behind them narrowed. Time resumed its natural rhythm. "You want us to return," Lyra said slowly. to speak what we've learned, to pass it on. Only if you speak it truly. No language, no lies, only resonance. Quinn exhaled deeply, nodding. Then we need to learn to listen better. The ship began to turn. As it retreated from the chamber of light, the breach closed behind them, not shutting them out, but sealing the song inside until it was time to sing again. The Alethea emerged back into the physical sea, the familiar sun overhead. Stars aligned once more to known constellations. The ship floated silently. No propulsion, no command, just waiting. Jin looked at the crystal dome, now dull and inert. It's gone quiet. Elias shook his head. Not quiet, just resting. They stood together, not speaking for a long time. Lyra finally broke the silence. This wasn't a mission. It was a threshold. The question now is what we do with it. No one answered. They didn't need to, because each of them knew, in the marrow of their being, that they had become more than explorers, more than crew. They were now custodians of a truth too ancient for words, and the world would soon hear its echo.